In the quiet town of Eldridge Hollow, a phenomenon lurks in the shadows of the night. Profiles of its residents reveal haunting tales of unexplained occurrences that flirt with the boundaries of human understanding. 5 individuals, bound by their unsettling experiences, unwittingly cross paths during a dark storm, forcing them to confront the fears that keep them awake. As they share their chilling narratives, a deeper connection emerges, one that involves an ancient spirit that demands to be reckoned with. The night wears on, and with it, the tempest overhead mirrors the turbulence of their emotions. Each story unveils horrors that are not solely of the paranormal, but also of the human psyche, leaving both the characters and the readers questioning the nature of fear. The night was unusually stormy in Eldridge Hollow, the kind of night where the shadows seemed to dance, and the wind howled secrets. 5 individuals found themselves sheltering in a dimly lit diner, the only refuge amidst the thunderous chaos outside. Sarah, a local librarian, glanced nervously at the window as raindrops streaked down like teardrops. She never liked storms. "Did you hear about the old farmhouse out near Birchwood Lane?" she asked, breaking the heavy silence. "No, what about it?" replied Tom, the diner's cook, his hands covered in flour. "They say it's haunted. A family was found there years ago. No explanation, just gone," Sarah responded, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes darting to the door. "Sounds like a local urban legend," interjected Mark, a young skeptic who frequented the diner. "These stories are just ways to scare ourselves. There's no truth to them." The tension in the room escalated as Anna, a waitress, chimed in. "I think it's worth hearing about. My grandmother used to tell me stories about it. She claimed she saw something, a figure watching her from the window." Maya, an outsider fascinated by local folklore, leaned closer. What did she see exactly? Intrigued, the others turned their attention to Anna, eager for the chilling details. As the storm raged outside, Anna's tale began to unfold, enveloping the diner in an air of unsettling dread and setting the stage for a night none of them would soon forget. Time passed as Anna recounted her grandmother's encounter. It was the same story every time. She'd sit by the fireplace and shudder, her old hands trembling as she spoke of the man with hollow eyes. Anna relayed, her voice shaken. "Do you think it was a ghost?" Sarah asked, fear creeping into her tone. "No one really knows," Anna replied, her gaze lost in the flickering light of the diner. "But they say he appears to those who've felt loss." Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the group froze. "Great, we might lose power," Tom said, trying to lighten the mood. But Maya was intrigued. "What if he's here, right now?" she suggested, her eyes widening. "What if he feeds off our fears?" "I don't believe in this nonsense," Mark retorted. "Let's stick to real threats, thieves, nature. That's real." As the storm howled with fury outside, the front door creaked open, allowing a gust of wind to send a chill down their spines. An eerie silence engulfed the diner, broken only by the sound of rain pelting against the windows. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air from outside, causing the group to jump. "What was that?" Sarah gasped, her heart racing. "I'll check," Tom reluctantly said, gripping a flashlight. As he stepped outside, the diner felt like a sanctuary, yet a sinister aura loomed. Minutes crawled by. He should have returned. Then the lights flickered again, this time staying off, plunging them into darkness. Panic washed over the group, and they huddled together, sharing breathless whispers about what could be lurking just beyond their sight. "Is this a prank?" Mark asked, his voice tight with unease. But as they strained to hear, a low, guttural sound emanated from the dark. confirming their worst fears were just beginning. With their senses heightened, the tension within the diner grew unbearable. The storm continued its relentless assault outside, drowning summer's warmth in stifling shadows. "We need to get out of here," Mark insisted, edging towards the door. "But what if it's worse out there?" Sarah countered, fear etched in her eyes. "We can't just sit here and wait for something to happen," he argued, his bravado faltering. Maya, unable to remain silent any longer, spoke up. "What if we share our own stories? Perhaps they will bring the light we need." Anna nodded. "I could tell you about the time my grandmother met the hollow-eyed man." "No more ghost stories," Mark shouted, frustration boiling over. "This is ridiculous." Before Mark could protest further, Tom returned. His expression was pale. Fear leached from his face. There's something out there." "What?" Sarah gasped. "I saw a figure," Tom stammered, "in the shadows. It just stood there, watching." "Point it out," Maya urged, desperate for clarity. But Tom was speechless, and an oppressive silence fell upon them. Suddenly, the diner's door creaked open once more, revealing the figure. A gaunt man with hollow eyes, just as Anna had described. "Help me," he rasped, his voice chilling. "Get away from him!" Sarah shrieked. But the man stepped forward, his presence pressing against their hearts with an unseen force. Mark stood frozen in shock, mouth agape. He's real." In a fit of courage, Anna rose. "What do you want?" she called, her voice shaky but strong. "Your fears," the figure whispered, as the storm intensified and their nightmares began to take form, begging for recognition. As the figure loomed closer, the overwhelming scent of damp earth flooded their senses, accompanied by the sound of desperate whispers echoing around the diner, haunting echoes of each person's darkest anxieties pressing in on their consciousness. "What does he mean?" Sarah's voice trembled. "He wants us to acknowledge our fears," Maya replied with slight defiance. "He's not here to hurt us. He feeds on our unwillingness." "No!" Mark shouted, backing away. "I refuse! This is insane!" But in his turmoil, a dark memory surfaced, the loss of a friend he never fully accepted. Stricken with grief, he gasped, "I can't face that." The apparition's eyes flickered, poised to extract the depths of his despair. "Face it murmured. Tom's resentment surfaced as he glared at Mark. "Stop running from your past. We can't let fear control us." Fueled by Tom's words, Anna stepped forward. "What if we embraced our fears? Instead of trying to escape, let's confront them together." As the group joined hands, they found strength in their shared vulnerability. Each whispered their fears aloud, the pain of loss, regret, loneliness, and failure. For every horrifying confession, the figure weakened, retreating with every acknowledgement, until it dissipated into the shadows. Their hearts still raced, but the oppressive darkness eased. The storm outside began to quiet, and light filtered through the windows again. "Is it over?" Sarah asked, her voice a blend of hope and disbelief. "Maybe," Tom replied, "but we can't stop addressing our fears. They're ghosts of their own." The next morning, in the aftermath of the storm, the diner glowed with warm sunlight, a stark contrast to the terror of the night before. The group sat around a table, sharing relieved laughter, feeling the grip of anxiety begin to fade. "Remember when Mark thought he could outrun his past?" Sarah teased, her eyes twinkling. Mark chuckled. "I guess it was a humbling night, though I won't ever take a storm lightly again." Maya smiled. "It was a reminder that our fears are connected. They have power over us, but only if we let them. Tom nodded. We need to keep talking about this. Maybe we should meet again and see how other fears affect us. Let's call it our fear club, Anna suggested playfully. They laughed, knowing that together they had faced the horrors that could easily have claimed their sanity. With the storm behind them, they held on to the knowledge that acknowledgement of their fears fostered resilience. As they exited the diner, the world felt a little lighter, but a whisper of their experience lingered. Shadowed remnants of deep-set fears waiting silent in the recesses of their minds, waiting for the next storm to see if they would rise again. For those of you who have horror or supernatural experiences, feel free to share your story to the email provided in the description below. Who knows, your story might be featured in our next video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any exciting videos.